The Galactic Council Chamber was the heart of the universe's politics, a place where the most powerful empires gathered to decide the fate of entire civilizations. It was a grand hall filled with towering statues, golden crests, and symbols of authority from countless star systems. Representatives from 1,000 species sat on their elevated thrones, their presence a reminder of the long history of alliances and conflicts that shaped the galaxy. But among these magnificent seats, one remained untouched. A massive chair, larger than any other, carved from a material no one could identify. It shimmered with an unnatural glow, as if it existed slightly out of phase with reality. It belonged to Earth. No one had sat in it for centuries. The nameplate at its base was covered in dust, the symbols barely legible. Some of the younger diplomats had never even heard of Earth. To them, it was just another lost world, a forgotten piece of history. But the older members of the council knew better. They remembered, and that memory terrified them. Velnar, the youngest ambassador of the Yilani species, had been attending these meetings for the past decade. He had studied every empire, every war, every shift in galactic power. But one thing never made sense to him. Why was Earth's throne still there? Many species had risen and fallen over the centuries, their seats replaced or removed from the chamber entirely. But Earth's seat remained, untouched, untaken. It was as if no one dared claim it. And so, for the first time in generations, someone finally asked the question. Velnar stood from his seat, his blue-tinted skin glowing under the council's golden lights. His voice was steady, but curious. Why does no one sit in Earth's chair? The chamber fell silent. A heavy stillness spread through the room like a suffocating fog. The usual hum of whispered conversations, the clicking of alien mandibles, the rustling of ceremonial robes, all of it stopped. Velnar frowned. He had expected a simple answer. Perhaps Earth had been destroyed or abandoned. But the way the elder ambassadors shifted uncomfortably made it clear. They did not want to talk about this. Across the hall, an elder representative from the Drakmor Dominion, one of the oldest reptilian species, narrowed his glowing yellow eyes. His scales, once a proud emerald, had faded to a dull gray with age. He opened his mouth to speak but then hesitated, as if reconsidering his words. Finally, he let out a slow breath and whispered, "Because we remember." A chill ran down Velnar's spine. He looked around the chamber. Some of the elder members refused to meet his gaze. Others gripped their armrests, their claws digging into the ancient wood. Fear, that was the only word for it. Fear of a species that no longer sat among them. Velnar took a step forward, his voice calm but firm. "Remember what?" The elder Drakmor let out a quiet hiss. "You do not want to know." But that only made Velnar more determined. "I do." A voice from the shadows spoke next. Deep, mechanical, unnatural. It came from the Vorthian delegate, an AI construct older than most civilizations in the room. Unlike the others, it did not feel fear. It only processed data. And yet, it too had never spoken of Earth. Until now. Earth was not conquered. The Vorthian's metallic voice echoed through the chamber. Earth was not destroyed. Earth made a choice. Velnar's brow furrowed. What choice? The AI hesitated for a fraction of a second, something it had never done before. Then, in a voice almost too quiet to hear, it answered, "To leave." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some looked away, others clenched their jaws. "That doesn't make sense," Velnar pressed. "Leave? Leave what?" The elder Drakmor finally spoke again, his voice barely a whisper. "This galaxy." A cold silence filled the room. Velnar's heartbeat quickened. Leave the galaxy. That was impossible. The fastest ships, the most advanced civilizations, none had ever ventured beyond the galactic borders. The energy required, the knowledge needed, it was beyond understanding. And yet, humans had done it. Velnar exhaled sharply. If they left, why does their seat remain? The elder's eyes darkened. Because they never said they wouldn't come back. A chill ran through the room. The silence turned heavy, not just with fear, but with dread. For the first time, Vellner understood. Earth's seat wasn't empty because humans were forgotten. It was empty because the galaxy was waiting for the day when humanity returned. And when that day came, no one knew if they would come as friends or as something else. Vellner couldn't sleep. The words of the elder counselors echoed in his mind. They never said they wouldn't come back. The thought sent a shiver through him. What kind of species could leave the entire galaxy behind? No empire, no civilization, had ever managed such a feat. Even the most advanced species struggled to send probes beyond the galactic borders, let alone an entire population. And yet, humans had done it. But why? The answer had to be somewhere. If the elder counselors refused to speak, then he would find the truth himself. That's why, long after the chamber lights dimmed and the great hall fell into silence, Vellner made his way to the council archives. The archives were buried deep beneath the council chambers, hidden behind layers of security fields and locked doors. Only the most privileged members of the council had unrestricted access. But Vellner had spent his entire life studying galactic politics. He knew that where laws existed, loopholes followed. He used his ambassador credentials to gain limited access. It wasn't much, but it was enough to get him inside. Rows upon rows of ancient data tablets lined the massive chamber. These weren't the typical council records available to the public. These were sealed files, locked away from history. Vellner's fingers hovered over the glowing data terminals. He searched for one thing. Earth. Nothing. He frowned and tried another query. Humanity. Again, nothing. He felt a chill run through him. There were billions of records in the archives. Every species, every war, every historical event had been meticulously documented. But Earth, it was as if they had been erased. Vellner exhaled slowly. There had to be something, some trace of their existence. Then, out of desperation, he searched for a different term, the Silent Throne. This time, something appeared. One file, heavily encrypted. Vellner's heart pounded as he accessed the record. The security warnings flashed in red, warning him that unauthorized access would be considered treason. But he ignored them. The truth was worth the risk. The screen flickered. A single message appeared. If you are reading this, it is already too late. Vellner's breath caught in his throat. He scrolled further. The file contained a transmission. An ancient broadcast. He pressed play. A holographic image appeared before him. The figure was humanoid, dressed in a uniform that bore no recognizable insignia. Their face was obscured, as if the file had been damaged over time. And then the message played. To those who remain, you were right to fear us. You were right to erase us. But it won't matter. We are coming back. And when we do, the stars will tremble. The hologram glitched and vanished. Vellner stumbled back, his heart racing. His hands trembled as he shut down the terminal. The council hadn't just erased Earth from history. They had buried the warning. And now, Vellner was the only one who had seen it. But he wasn't alone. From the shadows of the archives, something moved. And then, a voice, low and cold. You shouldn't have done that. Vellner froze. The voice had come from the darkness behind him. The archives were supposed to be empty at this hour. His hands twitched, ready to reach for his communicator, but something in his instincts screamed, "Don't move." A figure stepped forward, barely visible in the dim glow of the data terminal. They wore a deep black cloak, the kind that seemed to drink in the light around it. Vellner couldn't see a face, only the outline of a humanoid figure. You shouldn't have accessed that file, the voice repeated, lower this time, almost a whisper. Vellner swallowed hard. Who are you? The figure didn't answer. Instead, they raised a small metallic device, a jammer. Every security camera in the room blinked off. The council wouldn't see or hear anything now. Vellner's mind raced. Whoever this was, they had power. and they knew about the file. You don't understand what you've done, the figure continued. The moment you opened that record, you became a target. A target? Velnar asked, forcing himself to stay calm. For who? The silence stretched for too long. Then the figure exhaled. The ones who are watching. The ones who never left. The hidden war. Velnar's fingers twitched at his side. He needed answers. Fast. You mean the humans? He asked. The ones who abandoned their throne. The figure's head tilted slightly, as if considering him. Abandoned. They let out a dry, humorless chuckle. Is that what the council told you? Something about the way they said it sent a chill through Velnar's body. Then tell me the truth, he insisted. What happened to them? The figure hesitated. Then, slowly, they reached into their cloak and pulled out a small triangular device. It looked ancient, but its surface pulsed faintly with energy. This, the figure said, is the last message ever sent by a human fleet. Velnar stared at it. Play it, he said. The figure nodded. They pressed a single button. A hologram appeared in the air between them. The last transmission. The image flickered, revealing a human captain. His uniform was torn, his face bruised. Smoke curled behind him, and alarms blared in the background. This is Commander Elias of the Terran Vanguard, the man said, his voice strained but steady. If anyone receives this message, we were betrayed. Velnar's breath caught in his throat. The council feared us, Elias continued, feared what we were becoming. So they came together. They struck first. Behind him, an explosion rocked the ship. Sparks rained down. They erased us from history. But we are not gone. We are watching. We are waiting. Elias leaned forward, staring straight into the recording device. And when the time comes, we will return. The transmission cut to black. Truth and consequences. Velnar couldn't move. The words "we will return" rang in his ears. The figure closed the device and stepped back into the shadows. Now you understand. Velnar exhaled slowly. The council had lied. They hadn't just erased human history. They had started a war. And if the humans were still out there, that war wasn't over. Velnar looked up, but the figure was already gone. Only their final whisper lingered in the empty archives. Choose wisely, Ambassador, because now they know your name. Velnar barely slept that night. The message haunted him. We were betrayed. Those words had shattered everything he believed about the Galactic Council. The humans hadn't disappeared. They had been erased. And yet, they still existed somewhere in the void, watching, waiting. Morning came too soon. The council chamber loomed ahead, its grand structure a symbol of unity and power. But now, to Velnar, it felt like something else, a monument to a lie. As he walked toward his seat, he caught glimpses of the elder counselors whispering. Had they already discovered that he knew? He took his place. The session began. The question that shook the chamber. Velnar waited for the right moment. Discussions on trade, border disputes, and alliances filled the air, but he barely heard any of it. Then the supreme speaker, an ancient, towering figure named Odran, raised his staff, signaling a close to routine matters. Velnar seized his chance. He stood. I have a question, he said. The chamber fell silent. Hundreds of eyes turned to him. Odran frowned. You may speak, young ambassador. Velnar took a steady breath. The humans. What truly happened to them? The reaction was immediate. A low murmur spread through the hall. Some counselors exchanged nervous glances. Others tensed in their seats. A few whispered among themselves. Only the oldest ones remained completely still. Odran's fingers tightened around his staff. That subject is not open for discussion. Velnar didn't back down. Why not? The tension thickened. Because, Odran said, voice heavy with finality, there is nothing to discuss. The humans were lost to time. Their fate is irrelevant. Vellner clenched his fists. He had seen the message. He knew the truth. Irrelevant. His voice rose. Or hidden. A ripple of shock passed through the chamber. A younger ambassador from the Trelzer race hissed, shifting uncomfortably. You do not question the council's wisdom, Vellner. But he did, and he wasn't going to stop now. The throne of Earth remains empty, Vellner continued. Yet no one dares to sit in it. Why? Audran's expression darkened. You go too far. Vellner stared him down. I don't think I've gone far enough. A dangerous warning. Audran leaned forward. You are young, he said, his voice softer now, but no less threatening. And you do not understand the weight of your words. Vellner didn't flinch. Then enlighten me. Audran exhaled slowly. Very well. I will tell you a story. The only story you need to hear. The chamber remained silent as the Supreme Speaker's voice echoed through the great hall. Once, the humans were like fire, burning bright, consuming everything in their path. They were explorers, conquerors, builders of impossible things. And then, one day, they'd vanished. ***. His gaze swept across the room. We do not ask why the fire burned out. We only know the galaxy was safer without it. A chill ran through Vellner. Audran wasn't just dismissing the humans. He was warning him. The Supreme Speaker continued, his tone now ice-cold. Do not seek them, Ambassador. Do not dig into graves best left undisturbed. Because if you find what sleeps beneath. He leaned closer. You may not like what wakes up. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. No one spoke. Vellner knew what had just happened. This wasn't an answer. It was a threat. But it was too late for him to turn back. Because now, more than ever, he needed to find the truth. Vellner left the council chamber with his heart pounding. The Supreme Speaker's warning echoed in his mind. Do not seek them. You may not like what wakes up. But Vellner knew himself too well. The warning had only fueled his curiosity. If the humans had truly been erased, there had to be records, hidden, classified, buried beneath layers of deception. He had to find them. And there was only one place to look. The Grand Archives. A dangerous search. The Grand Archives of the Galactic Council were restricted to high-ranking officials. No ordinary ambassador had access. But Vellner wasn't ordinary. Under the cover of night, he made his way through the silent corridors of the Council's main citadel. His robes brushed against the cold floor as he neared the secured entrance. A single guard stood before the great metallic doors. Vellner's heart raced. He couldn't afford to be caught. He took a deep breath and approached with confidence. Ambassador Vellner, he said, nodding politely. I need access to historical records on pre-collapse civilizations. The guard frowned. That section is restricted. Vellner smiled, producing a small metallic insignia. The seal of the High Chancellor. It wasn't his. He had borrowed it. The guard's eyes widened. I wasn't informed. That's because this is a confidential matter. Vellner interrupted smoothly. Would you like to explain to the High Chancellor why you delayed me? The guard hesitated, then stepped aside. Of course, Ambassador. Please proceed. Vellner exhaled quietly and stepped through the massive doors. The truth in the shadows. Rows upon rows of glowing data crystals stretched before him. The air was thick with dust, untouched knowledge locked away for centuries. He quickly accessed the terminal and searched for a simple term. Humans. No results. Vellner frowned. That was impossible. He tried again. Earth. Terran. Sol system. Still nothing. Frustration boiled inside him. The records had been erased, but erasing something so thoroughly only confirmed one thing. The Council was hiding something. He needed a different approach. Instead of searching for humans, he searched for unexplained mass extinction events. A single entry appeared. The file was heavily encrypted, sealed under the highest security clearance. Vellner's breath caught in his throat. This was it. His hands moved swiftly, bypassing protocols, using access codes he wasn't supposed to know. The file flickered, then unlocked. And what he saw shattered everything. The last transmission. It wasn't a report. It was a message. An old, distorted transmission, centuries old, sent from a deep space beacon on the edge of the galaxy. A trembling voice filled the room. To any who received this, we were betrayed. Vellner's pulse pounded. It was human. We trusted the Council. We thought we were allies. But they feared us. The voice grew weaker. They struck first. They unleashed a weapon against us. Something monstrous. Something that was never meant to exist. Vellner's hands clenched into fists. The Council wiped them out. But the message wasn't over. The voice took one final chilling breath. They think we're gone. But we are patient. We are watching. And one day, we will return. The transmission ended. A cold realization settled over Vellner. The humans weren't extinct. They were waiting. And now, they knew someone was looking for them. Vellner's breath was shallow. The transmission still echoed in his mind. They think we're gone. But we are patient. Every instinct told him to leave the archives immediately. He had seen enough. Too much. But as he turned to exit, a low, rhythmic hum filled the chamber. The security locks clicked into place. Vellner froze. Someone knew he was here. The silent pursuit. The massive doors of the archive were now sealed. He tapped his communicator, but it was jammed. He wasn't alone. Vellner ducked behind a towering row of data crystals. Shadows flickered in the dim glow of the archive lights. Dark figures moved between the shelves, silent, deliberate. Council enforcers. They had come for him. His mind raced. Had the security guard reported him? Or had the system flagged as unauthorized access? It didn't matter. He needed to escape. Through a gap between the shelves, he caught a glimpse of the figures. Black armor. No insignia. No identification. Not just enforcers. Assassins. They weren't here to arrest him. They were here to erase him. A desperate escape. Vellner moved quickly, his robes barely making a sound. He had studied the archive layout before. There was an emergency ventilation shaft near the back. But he had to reach it first. Step by step, he weaved through the shelves, careful not to make a sound. A voice crackled through the silent air. The target is still inside. Orders are clear. Eliminate him. Vellner's blood turned to ice. He reached the ventilation shaft, just as a shadow loomed behind him. A blade slashed through the air. He barely dodged in time, the weapon slicing through his robe. He spun around, slamming his elbow into the attacker's chest. The figure stumbled, but another took his place. There were too many. Vellner had no choice. He lunged for the shaft, yanking open the grate, and threw himself inside. Behind him, the assassins opened fire. Energy bolts seared the metal walls as he scrambled forward. The warning. Vellner burst out of the vents into a side corridor, his lungs burning. He had to warn someone. But who? The Council was compromised. The moment they knew he had seen the files, they would silence him. He only had one option. He had to find the humans. If they were still out there, if they were waiting, then they needed to know that the Council hadn't forgotten them. Because now, neither would they. Vellner's hands trembled as he patched his wounds. The stolen ship he had taken from the archive's docking bay hummed beneath him, its systems running silently. He had escaped, for now. But where could he go? The Galactic Council wanted him dead. The assassins were still hunting him. Every powerful faction in the universe would erase him if they knew what he had uncovered. Yet one thought burned in his mind. He had to find the humans. The forgotten coordinates. Vellner stared at the ancient data crystal in its hands, the last remnants of humanity's true history. Among the records, he had found a single set of coordinates. No name, no description, just a location, far beyond the known borders of the galaxy. It was a place no one spoke of, a place erased from history. If humans were still out there, this was where they would be. Taking a deep breath, he entered the coordinates into the ship's navigation. The engines roared as the ship leaked into hyperspace. There was no turning back. The graveyard of giants. When Vellner's ship emerged from hyperspace, his breath caught in his throat. A battlefield. Drifting in the void were the wrecks of thousands of warships, massive dreadnoughts, battlecruisers, and destroyers, all covered in ancient battle scars. Some were split in half, others reduced to skeletal husks. It was a graveyard of giants. And yet, there was no sign of Earth's fleet. Had they all perished here? Had they truly been wiped out? Vellner's scanners picked up something unusual, a faint energy signature. It was coming from a structure hidden within the wreckage. He hesitated, but he had come too far to stop now. Carefully, he maneuvered his ship closer. As he approached, a transmission crackled through his ship's speakers. A single voice. Calm, cold, human. You should not have come here. The awakening. Before Vellner could respond, the battlefield came alive. Hidden warships decloaked one by one. Massive dreadnoughts, sleek black frigates, towering battle stations. A fleet unlike anything he had ever seen. They had never been destroyed. They had been waiting. The voice spoke again, unwavering. We have watched. We have waited. And now, we decide what happens next. Vellner's heart pounded. The galaxy had always feared the return of humanity. And now, their patience had ended. The Galactic Council was a sight of unparalleled grandeur. A massive chamber, carved from the heart of a dying star, glowed with a faint golden hue. Around its circular table sat the most powerful beings in the known universe, rulers, warlords, and scholars from civilizations that had ruled for millennia. Some bore forms of pure energy, while others had towering bodies of stone or flesh. They represented empires that spanned galaxies, species that had mastered time, and minds that had witnessed the birth of stars. Yet, despite all their power, there was something in the chamber that unsettled them all. At the very center of the council, among thrones of jeweled metal and living crystal, one seat remained empty. It was a chair unlike any other, Earth's throne. The seat was simple in design, made of polished black stone, without the extravagant decorations the other rulers had. It had remained unclaimed for centuries, untouched, as if the very idea of sitting upon it was a crime. Relkor, a young diplomat from the Zenari Dominion, shifted uncomfortably. He had attended countless council meetings in his short career, but this was his first time seeing the throne up close. There was something about it, something unsettling, a presence that did not exist yet refused to be ignored. Curiosity burned inside him. He had studied galactic politics, read historical records, yet none mentioned why Earth's throne remained empty. Humanity was a forgotten mystery, a name that barely existed in the archives. He had to know. Taking a deep breath, he stood and addressed the council. His voice, though strong, carried a hint of hesitation. Honored leaders of the galaxy, I ask a question that many have thought, but none have spoken. A hush fell over the chamber. Some of the older members stiffened, while others cast nervous glances at one another. Relkor continued, his gaze fixed on the empty seat. Earth's throne has been vacant for as long as our records go back. Why? Where are the humans? A long silence followed. The air itself seemed to grow heavier. Relkor expected answers, maybe even laughter at his ignorance. Instead, he saw fear, true, unfiltered fear. The eldest of the council, a being older than most stars, shifted uncomfortably in its golden seat. Its many eyes, usually sharp and calculating, darted away from the throne, avoiding it as if merely looking at it was dangerous. Relkor frowned. This was not the reaction he had expected. Another leader, a reptilian warlord from the Drask Empire, exhaled sharply. His scales, which normally shone like polished steel, looked dull under the chamber's light. His voice, usually booming with pride, was barely above a whisper. "Do not ask about Earth." The young diplomat's confusion deepened. But surely, someone must know what happened to them. Humanity was once part of the Council, wasn't it? The warlord clenched his jaw, his claws digging into the armrests of his throne. One of the elder scholars of the Valdari Archives, an ancient race known for preserving the history of the cosmos, finally spoke. Her voice trembled, her luminous form flickering with unease. Yes, they were. She hesitated. And then, they left. Relkor frowned. Left? You mean they abandoned the Council? No. The scholar's glow dimmed further. They abandoned the galaxy. A chill ran down his spine. The Council chamber was the heart of power, a gathering of the strongest minds and rulers in the universe. Yet here they were, speaking of humans as if they were something to be feared. The silence stretched once more, thick with unspoken memories. Relkor pressed on, unable to hold back his curiosity. But why does no one claim their throne? Surely, if they are gone, another can take their place. The tension in the room deepened. The warlord's claws tightened. The scholar's glow flickered even more. Someone was about to speak. Then, an ancient voice, cracked with age, but filled with weight, broke the silence. It belonged to the oldest member of the Council, a being so ancient that even the longest-lived species barely remembered its name. Its many eyes, black as the void between galaxies, slowly turned toward Relkor. The ruler of Earth, the being's voice echoed, carrying a weight that pressed against the souls of all present, never needed to sit. Relkor's breath caught in his throat. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. The implications were terrifying. A throne symbolized authority, command, power. It was where rulers sat to dictate the fate of billions. But Earth's ruler, they had never needed to sit upon it, because their authority had never been questioned, because their power had never been challenged, because even now, even after they had vanished, the galaxy still feared them. Relkor looked back at the empty seat, his throat dry. For the first time, he understood why no one dared sit upon Earth's throne. It was not because they respected humanity. It was because they were terrified they might return. And if they did, the universe would never be the same again. Relkor couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The way the elder races reacted, the weight in their voices, it wasn't just respect for Earth. It was fear. But why? He had always been taught that humans were just another species, one that had vanished from the galactic stage long ago. If they were truly gone, then why did their absence still cast such a heavy shadow? Relkor turned toward the elder who had spoken, their black, void-like eyes locking onto him. He swallowed hard but forced himself to ask, what happened to them? The elder hesitated, glancing around the chamber. Some of the oldest members gave subtle shakes of their heads, as if warning him not to continue. But the silence was already broken. The truth had been waiting to be spoken. The elder exhaled, their form shifting slightly, as if weighed down by memories. You ask what happened to Earth. I will tell you. The chamber remained deathly silent as the elder's voice carried across the room. We fought them. Relkor felt his chest tighten. A war. The galaxy had fought humans. The elder continued, their voice steady, but carrying an edge of regret. Long ago, before the Council's rule was absolute, the galaxy was divided into factions. Empires sought dominance. Conflicts were common, but they followed a balance, a game of power where rules were obeyed. Then we encountered Earth. A murmur spread through the chamber. Some of the younger diplomats exchanged confused glances. Humanity's name was almost forgotten in modern times. The elder ignored them and continued. At first, they were small, a single system, barely beyond their homeworld. They should have been insignificant, but they weren't. Relkor leaned forward. Why? The elder's many eyes darkened. Asterisk, because they did not follow the rules. They did not understand restraint. When they fought to win. They did not see war as a game of power, but as survival. And survival was something they excelled at. The chamber remained still. We tried to conquer them. Relkor's heart pounded. The elder exhaled slowly. We failed. A heavy silence followed. The warlord from the Drask Empire, a veteran of countless battles, crossed his arms. "That's impossible," he growled. "No single species can stand against the might of the galaxy. Even the strongest fall when the Council unites." The elder's gaze met his. "That is where you are wrong. Earth was never the strongest." The warlord scoffed. "Then how did they win?" The elder's next words sent a chill through the chamber. "Because they would not stop." Relkor frowned. "What do you mean?" The elder closed their eyes, as if recalling something they wished to forget. "We thought we had crushed them. We burned their colonies. We destroyed their fleets. We shattered their world." Relkor's breath caught. "You destroyed Earth?" The elder nodded. "We thought that was the end." A cold silence followed. Relkor could feel it. The atmosphere had shifted. The air was heavier, the tension in the room almost suffocating. Something about the way the elder spoke, the way the older members avoided looking at the empty throne. Something was wrong. The elder finally opened their eyes. But it wasn't the end. Relkor's hands tightened into fists. This was the part that wasn't written in the history records. The war didn't end when Earth fell. The elder's voice was barely above a whisper. That was when they truly began to fight. The chamber remained frozen, every leader listening with silent dread. They adapted. They rebuilt. They turned their ruins into weapons. They used the destruction we left behind to fuel their vengeance. They fought in ways we could never anticipate, with strategies we could not counter. For every world we took from them, they took 3 in return. Relkor felt a chill run through him. "We fought for survival." The elder's voice grew quieter. "They fought for something far worse." The warlord narrowed his eyes. "And what was that?" The elder looked at the empty throne. "They fought to make sure no one would ever dare challenge them again." Silence. No one spoke. Relkor could barely breathe. What had humanity done? Finally, the warlord scoffed, breaking the silence. "This is nonsense. If they were so powerful, then where are they now?" The elder did not answer immediately. Instead, they simply whispered, "Gone." Relkor's pulse quickened. "Gone where?" The elder looked away. Their voice haunted. "We do not know." The warlord scoffed again. "So they ran." Typical. The elder turned their black eyes toward him. And for the first time, a hint of something dark flickered within them. "No," the elder whispered. "They disappeared." Relkor swallowed. The elder's voice remained cold. One day, their fleets stopped attacking. Their planets went silent. Their last transmission was simple: "This galaxy is no longer our concern." Then they vanished. Relkor shook his head. "That doesn't make sense. A species cannot just disappear." The elder leaned forward. "And yet, they did." Another silence. Then the elder spoke again. "Do you understand now, young one, why no one sits upon that throne?" Relkor looked at the empty seat once more. It wasn't just empty. It was waiting. And somewhere, so were the humans. The silence stretched across the chamber, heavy and suffocating. Relkor could feel the tension in the air, the weight of the elder's words pressing against his chest. Humanity had disappeared. But how? The warlord of the Drask Empire was the first to break the silence. He let out a low growl, arms crossed over his armored chest. "Vanished. Impossible. No species simply disappears." The elder did not argue. Instead, they sighed, their many eyes dimming as if looking into a past they wished they could forget. "We thought the same." Relkor hesitated. "You mean, you looked for them?" The elder turned their gaze toward him, and for the first time, Relkor saw something deeper in those ancient eyes. Fear. "Of course we did. At first, we assumed they had hidden, that they were rebuilding in the shadows, preparing for one final war. A few of the younger diplomats exchanged glances. The idea was absurd. No empire, no matter how powerful, could sustain itself indefinitely in hiding. We sent scouts, fleets, spies. We searched every world they had ever touched, every system they had ever mapped. But we found nothing. Not a single outpost. Not a single distress beacon. Not a single survivor. It was as if they had never existed. Relker's throat went dry. The warlord scoffed. So they died out. Their species must have collapsed after their war efforts failed. The elder's black eyes locked onto him. That is what we told ourselves. The warlord frowned. What do you mean? The elder exhaled. We did not find humans, but we did find something else. A hushed murmur spread across the chamber. Relker leaned forward. What? The elder's fingers tightened around the edge of the council table. Ghosts. The word sent a chill through the room. The Drask warlord snorted. Superstitions. I expected better from you. The elder ignored him, their voice quieter now, almost reverent. The first sign came when our patrols began vanishing near the old human borders. Entire ships lost without a trace. No distress calls. No wreckage. Nothing. Relker shivered. Pirates. The elder shook their head. No. Pirates leave bodies. This was different. The room was dead silent now. Every council member listened intently. Then, the whispers began. Relker's heart pounded. At first, it was just rumors. Pilots swearing they saw movement in the void where no ships should be. Stations reporting signals that vanished when investigated. A name spoken over dead channels, recorded in languages long extinct. The elder took a slow breath. Terra. A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. Even after all these years, the name still carried weight. The elder continued. And then the encounters began. The warlord rolled his eyes. More myths. The elder's voice was stone. Do you think the Zorith Empire tells myths? A hush fell over the room. The Zorith Empire had been one of the mightiest forces in the galaxy, a race of conquerors and warlords. They had once rivaled the council itself, until they collapsed overnight. Relker leaned in. You're saying humanity had something to do with the fall of the Zorith? The elder nodded. One of their last fleets had been exploring the old human sectors. They sent a single transmission before vanishing. Relker braced himself. What did it say? The elder's black eyes locked onto his. They are not gone. A cold chill spread through Relker's body. The warlord shook his head. Lies. If humanity still existed, they would have revealed themselves. The elder's gaze was unyielding. Would they? Relker swallowed hard. What if the war hadn't ended? What if humanity had simply changed the battlefield? The elder's voice was almost a whisper now. They learned from us. We fought them in the open. So they disappeared. We tried to erase them. So they erased themselves. We hunted them. And now we are the ones being hunted. A tense silence followed. Relker stared at the empty throne. It wasn't just a symbol of an absent ruler. It was a warning. Humanity had not been defeated. They had become something else. And the galaxy had no idea what was waiting in the dark. The council chamber remained silent, the weight of the elder's words pressing down like a phantom hand. They are not gone. Relker's mind raced. If humanity was still out there, unseen, unheard, yet somehow influencing events, what did that mean for the galaxy? The warlord of the Drask Empire bared his fangs. You expect us to fear shadows. If these ghosts of Earth were real, they would have shown themselves. The elder did not flinch, and if they have. The warlord scoffed. We would have seen them. The elder's many black eyes flickered with something between amusement and pity. You assume that because you do not see them, they are not here. The chamber grew colder. Relker hesitated, his voice barely above a whisper. What are you saying? The elder turned to him, their voice like a blade cutting through the air. What if humanity never left? The room tensed. The warlord snarled. Impossible. We searched their worlds. We scored their systems. They are gone. The elder's fingers tightened on the table. Are they? For the first time, real uncertainty crossed the warlord's face. What if humanity did not vanish, but instead changed? Relker's stomach twisted. The elder's voice was steady. What if they learned a new kind of war? One fought not with fleets and armies, but with silence. A war where the enemy does not even know they are losing. The younger diplomats shifted uncomfortably. A war in the dark. A war without battles. A war where humanity simply erased those who threatened them. Relkor exhaled slowly. You mean sabotage, assassinations? The elder nodded. Not just that. A complete restructuring of the battlefield. They don't fight wars. They make sure wars never begin. A cold thought crept into Relkor's mind. How many times had the balance of power shifted in the last few centuries? How many rising empires had collapsed before they could grow too large? How many wars had never even started because key figures simply disappeared? Relkor looked at the empty throne. For centuries, they had thought it was abandoned. What if it was occupied all along? The warlord of the Drask sneered. You spin ghost stories. There is no proof. The elder exhaled, slowly reaching into their robe. They placed a small metal insignia on the table. The room froze. Relker's blood turned to ice. It was small, simple, a circular emblem of black metal, polished to perfection. But every species in the room recognized it. The warlord's voice was strangled. That is impossible. It was the symbol of Terra, a relic from a species long thought dead. The elder spoke softly. We found it in the wreckage of the Zorith Empire's final command ship. A chill ran through the council. The warlord's breathing had become slow and careful. Perhaps it was simply a lost artifact. The elder smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Perhaps. But tell me, warlord, when was the last time your own empire expanded? The warlord stiffened. The Drask had been conquerors once. Their fleets had spread like wildfire, consuming weaker civilizations. But something had stopped them. Their last campaign had failed before it even began. Resources had been lost. Commanders had vanished. A political shift had weakened their forces. Every time they planned to strike, something went wrong. It had been dismissed as misfortune, as political sabotage, as fate. But now it felt like design. Relker's hands felt clammy. The elder leaned forward. The war did not end when humanity disappeared. It merely changed. The council chamber remained dead silent. Relkor forced himself to speak. Then, if they are still out there, what do they want? The elder's gaze flickered to the empty throne. Perhaps they are waiting. Relkor felt a lump in his throat. For what? The elder's black eyes gleamed. For the moment we forget to be afraid. The chamber felt colder than before. The weight of the elder's words pressed upon them all. Relker's mind swirled with questions. The thought of an invisible war, one waged without battles, without fleets, without declarations, was terrifying. If they never left. Relkor hesitated, his voice barely above a whisper. Then where are they? The elder gave him a long, searching look before speaking. Everywhere. A chill ran down Relkor's spine. The warlord of the Drask bared his fangs, but his earlier arrogance was gone. You claim that ghosts walk among us, that humanity still holds power. Yet we do not see them. We do not hear them. How then do they exist? The elder tapped a long finger against the symbol of Terra resting on the table. Do you think they would be so foolish as to reveal themselves? The younger diplomats exchanged uneasy glances. We have seen no fleets. We have heard no demands. We have found no colonies, no armies, no settlements. The elder nodded. And that is precisely why they are more dangerous than you can comprehend. Silence. You search for ships in the void. You listen for threats in the stars. But tell me. The elder turned towards the gathered council, their voice calm, yet razor-sharp. Do you truly know who sits beside you? Relkor felt something tighten in his chest. What are you saying? The elder's lips curled in something almost like a smile. You search for humanity in the past, in their ruins, in their lost worlds. But what if they never vanished? The words felt like a slow, creeping poison. What if they walk among us? The warlord growled. Impossible. We would know. The elder met his gaze without fear. Would you? A deep, uneasy stillness filled the room. Think of your closest allies, your most trusted advisors, the merchants who move between your worlds, the scientists who whisper new ideas into your ears, the engineers who build your weapons, the spies who deal in secrets. Relkor's breathing slowed. The thought had never occurred to him before. What if humanity did not need a homeworld? What if they had spread through the stars, not as conquerors, but as ghosts, hidden in plain sight, guiding, manipulating, watching? Relkor's mind reeled. The idea was terrifying. It would explain so much. The sudden collapses of great empires, the disappearances of warlords, the technological leaps some civilizations made seemingly overnight, the failures of invasions that should have succeeded. Had humanity orchestrated all of it? The warlord of the Drask slammed a fist onto the table. You speak nonsense. There is no proof. The elder let out a slow breath. Then tell me, warlord, why do you tremble? The room held its breath. The Drask warlord, a being who had crushed entire civilizations, was trembling. He scowled, trying to hide it. Even if your story holds truth, why would they do this? Why hide? Why not rule? The elder gestured to the empty throne. Perhaps they already do. The word sent a ripple of unease through the chamber. The warlord scoffed. If they control the galaxy, then let them show themselves. Let them take the throne if they dare. For the first time, the elder truly smiled. Why take a throne? They leaned forward. When you can rule from the shadows. A cold silence fell over the council. Relkor could hear his own heartbeat. It was no longer a question of whether humanity still existed. It was a question of how deep their influence ran, and how much of the galaxy was already theirs. The chamber remained deathly still. Relkor's breath came slow, measured, but his mind raced. The elder's words had planted a seed of terror, the thought of humanity. Unseen, unknown, and yet everywhere, sent a cold shiver down his spine. This is madness, the Drask warlord growled, though his voice lacked its usual force. A species cannot rule from the shadows. Influence, yes. Manipulation, perhaps. But rule? No empire has ever thrived without open power. The elder met his gaze. Then tell me, warlord, why does the galaxy still tremble at the mention of humanity? The warlord's jaw tightened. Fear of a dead empire. Fear of myths and stories. That is all. The elder exhaled, as if disappointed. You still do not understand. Humanity did not vanish because they were defeated. They vanished because they chose to.